Something rough is happening to the San Antonio Spurs right now as Devin Vassell cannot find his three-point stroke, and some fans are calling for Victor Wembanyama to get more help, and even some crazier fans calling for Vassell to move. Mitch Johnson is trying to figure out this rotation, figure out the problem, though he seems to say that the three-point shooting is not an issue. There's some stats that kind of go against what Mitch Johnson was saying. There's a lot of interesting, controversial things happening with the Spurs. I'll be diving into it and showing you why it's probably not as bad as it seems, but it's not just that. We got to talk about some crazy Spurs trade rumors out there. You're not going to want to miss that. And we also got a great update on a certain Spurs All-Star likelihood. I think you know who I'm talking about. Stick around for all that on this episode of Spurs Digest, but before we get into the video, as always, 3/4 of you guys watching this video are not subscribed. 3/4 of you. So statistically, you are not subscribed. Check down below. It's completely free. If you want to stay up to date on all the latest Spurs news, we got daily videos on news, rumors, trades, reports, all that stuff, pre-games, post-games. This is the spot to be, so hit the button down below. You won't regret it, I promise. Let's get into the video, and I want to start with our boy Victor. I mean, who else but Victor Wembanyama? The All-Star voting second fan returns came in today, January 9th, maybe yesterday if you're watching this on the 10th, and who else has climbed the ballot but Victor Wembanyama? No, he's not in that top 3 spot that you want to see him get to, ink himself for sure as a starter in this game. But regardless, he's up there. He's very close. He surpassed Anthony Davis in these fan returns. And the only guys ahead of him are Jokic, who might very well win another MVP this year, Kevin Durant and LeBron James, who have been the figureheads of the NBA for LeBron over 2 decades, Durant almost 2 decades now, right? So those are 2 of the most popular players in the world, and Wemby is just behind them. But also, don't forget, coaches have a say in this. 2 coaches are going to pick him to be on the All-Star team as well. All it takes is a little of this, a little of that, and Victor Wembanyama could very well be a starter in this All-Star game. And let's be honest, that's what we're campaigning for. Based on their performances this season, would you say LeBron James should start over Victor Wembanyama in the All-Star game? I think there's a very good argument to put Wemby there. I mean, he's putting up numbers that we legitimately haven't seen since the likes of Hakeem Olajuwon or even Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And I talked about this in my last video, talking about Victor Wembanyama's performance, because he's just setting these records, it feels like, every single night. He's going to be getting that quadruple double soon. His block averages are insane. He's only averaging 1 less block a game than an average NBA team this year. I think Victor's at 3.9-ish or 4 right now, and the average NBA team is just over 5 blocks per game. So, he's doing that. He's playing all NBA, borderline all-time level defense. I mean, we've seen the clips. We've watched the games, right? We know what he's doing there. But to also put up the points he's putting up, the assists even, it's crazy. So just wanted to highlight this. I don't need to go talking about Victor Wembanyama constantly every single video, but I wanted to show you guys these fan returns because I thought they were of value to you. But that's not the only thing we got to talk about today. We'll get into the Devin Vassell and the Spurs lineup and shooting problems in just a bit, because it is very interesting and you're going to want to see it. But I want to talk about some trade rumors. So there have been a lot going around the NBA, and let's be honest, looking at the Spurs right now, I mean, they've been linked to a bunch of names throughout the season. I mean, some people have mentioned Brandon Ingram over and over and over again. We've heard De'Aaron Fox as of late that the Spurs are one of the teams most closely monitoring that situation. Even Jimmy Butler, once he's asked out for the trade, I don't want that. But there's another name that is linked in these Jimmy Butler trades that is also linked to the Spurs on occasion. Maybe not officially linked, but some people like to talk about it. And whether the trade rumors are great or not, I like to discuss them with you guys because you guys always have really good insight in the comments down below, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. And this guy's name is Bradley Beal. So let's just bring this up. This comes from an article that'll be linked down below, but they basically say, I think it's from Sporting News, yeah. With 2 years left on his massive $251 million contract, Beal has a no-trade clause, but if the Suns want to dump his salary on the Spurs, maybe San Antonio won't say no to a win-now player, especially if something else like draft capital is attached to him. If San Antonio is looking for a veteran star who could help push this team to another level, there's reason to believe Beal would fit, wrote FanSided's Michael Sands on Wednesday. Beal could take the reins as somewhat of a savior. I'm done. Look, I read the word savior and I'm done. Honestly, I was kind of done earlier than this. Look, Bradley Beal is a great player, okay? But this season's just not it. Averaging 18 points a game. His efficiency is fine, 49% from the field, 39 from 3. Above average from 3, reasonable field goal percentage. It's not bad, right? It's really not that bad. And he's playing in a role right now that theoretically should be ideal to him as that second, third option scorer. And I think that's what he kind of thrives in. The problem is he's making way too much money. I just don't see a world look, I like to talk about these trade rumors, but I don't want to spend too much time on this. We're going to bring this graphic back up because, who are the Spurs giving up for him? Why would they trade for him? The idea here that they present in this article is that, okay, once he becomes a free agent after next year or whatever it is, 2 years, right? Then, the other Spurs players can come up and they can finally take the reins as they're a little bit older. That's not how this is going to work, right? Look, there's no need to rush the Spurs pushing into this playoff team. That's the worst thing you can do. We've seen it across a lot of different sports, right? A team feels like they're ready, and then they rush into building this playoff type roster, and all of a sudden the bottom falls out because one or two things didn't work the way they planned to have worked. Like maybe a team was in a playoff spot in a weaker conference, and then the next year the conference got stronger. The team, even though they added, they got worse, right? Bradley Beal is fine. I think he's a great basketball player. I don't think tying up $50 million with him on the Spurs for the next few years is a good idea at all. There's no need to rush this window with Victor Wembanyama. And also, like, I'm just not sold on him being a big needle mover. Here's the thing. If Bradley Beal cost me $25-30 million and he was my third option, give me that every single day of the week, right? Like, that'd be incredible. It's not about Bradley Beal the person, about Bradley Beal the basketball player. It's about the value that he would bring to this team right now and the assets you'd have to give up for him. I'm not for this. I'm not going to spend any more time on this, but I do want to hear what you guys have to say down below, because these trade rumors are fun, and you guys often have a lot of funny and a lot of insightful comments, so I want to hear from you. Final thing, this is something that we got to discuss. So we've been talking about Devin Vassell, right? We've been talking a lot about Devin Vassell, and he has just not been getting it done recently, and this is just recently. I mean, we love Devin Vassell here. I love Devin Vassell. He's one of my favorite players in the league, but, you know, right now it's a bit of a problem, but it's not just him, right? Well, actually, we'll start with him. Well, I'll get to that other thing after. Here's a game log of Devin Vassell's last 5 games, okay? 35% from the field, 19% from 3, and actually that game against Milwaukee raised his percentages. He was 3 for 9 in that game. Before that, he was 3 for his previous 23 from 3 over the course of the 4 games prior. The Spurs are on a 3-game skid right now. And I'm not going to say in large part due to Vassell. There's a lot of other factors as well. Of course, Wemby definitely didn't have a great game against Milwaukee. Wemby's having to play so many minutes right now because as soon as he steps off the floor, occasionally Chris Paul can hold it down, but a lot of the time he can't. And right now we're not getting that secondary scoring from guys like Vassell. But, you know, it's not just Vassell, and I'm going to go to this here, too. This is from Mitch Johnson. He said, Vassell shot a lot of good shots, and I think that he'll make them only in time. The only time I really get mad at him is when he hesitates or doesn't shoot. I think that's very good. We've seen Vassell able to make these shots, especially the middies. That's one thing we can't do. We're a good shooting team, and we just have to continue to sustain the confidence even through rough patches. Now, as I mentioned, Vassell shooting 19% over his last 5 games from 3. But on the season, as you can see here, he's a 42% shooter in the clutch. But again, I feel like Spurs fans are honing in on Devin Vassell because it's easy, right? I mean, we watched that game, especially against the Bulls, so many times it felt like he was going to have a momentum-changing 3 or something, and it just didn't go in. Now here, he gets this one tipped back in by Victor Wembanyama, which is great, but he just hasn't been himself, right? There was a lot of missed 3s, a lot of turnovers that you'll see in these clips, but I'm here to say it's not just him, right? The Spurs do have a little bit of a deeper problem this year, and it's something I fully expect to change moving forward. And that's with their overall 3-point shooting. So if I bring this up, this is from Air Alamo on X. Great follow, by the way. I suggest you do. The Spurs' 3-point percentage over the last 15 games. Champagny, 41.4%. No surprise there. This dude's always making 3s. Maybe not every single game, but he's been super consistent. Harrison Barnes, 39%. Even Wemby at 37 for the 3s he takes is great. You can accept a 33% from Sochan. That's kind of okay, right? That's not his primary thing. Chris Paul, 37%, a little bit under league average. Fine. But it's when you get to these other guys. It's when you get to a guy like Devin Vassell at 27%. Sandro, even though he doesn't play a whole lot, 27%. Keldon Johnson, 24.5%. And then Branham at 22. Castle at 21. Tre Jones at 17. The team 3-point percentage over that stretch is 33%. That's 27th in the league. This is something like when you hear Mitch Johnson saying we're a good shooting team, I don't necessarily disagree in theory, but the stats just don't back it up. Not over the past stretch of games. Like, we were a hotter shooting team to start the year, and like obviously I don't expect Devin Vassell to stay this low. I expect Castle to go up, bump up a little bit. Tre Jones also is like, he's got to come up a little bit, right? But, you know, it's not just this. Even this whole season, one of the Spurs' biggest problems, it hasn't really been their pull-up 3s. They're like a little below league average on pull-up 3 percentage. But if you look at catch and shoot 3s in particular, now this is pulled from NBA.com. You can go check it yourself. The Spurs are 4th last in the NBA. They're bottom 5 in catch and shoot 3 percentage at 34.5% this year. The only teams worse, the Blazers, the Wizards, and the Magic. And I think you can all agree that those are not good shooting teams. Like, you'd look at the teams and you'd say, well, they got a couple guys, but they're not good shooting teams. So that's when it comes down to like what Mitch Johnson said. It's like, I don't know. Like, I get it. I get what he's saying. You want the guys to shoot. But there is a bit of a deeper 3-point issue right now with the San Antonio Spurs. Do I expect this to last for years to come and to be a horrible? No, of course not, right? Do I expect Devin Vassell to keep up these really, really poor numbers? No, of course not. It's not nearly as bad as it looks. And if we just bring up Devin Vassell's stats this year, Just a reminder, he's shooting 52% on corner threes. He is consistently, year over year, well, at least over the past 2 years, one of the premier corner three-point shooters in the NBA. He was 4th in the NBA in corner three percentage last year. He's up near the top again this year. Now, also a weird thing, I don't know if you guys noticed this or if it's just me that noticed this, Basketball Reference and NBA.com have different corner three percentages. I was looking, it's 52%, 51.7 on Basketball Reference, but it's 50 on the dot at NBA.com. I don't know if that's just a weird thing I just discovered, but anyway, we'll put that to the side. I expect his numbers to go up, right? 34% on the season. You can expect him to get back to that 37, 38%. We've seen enough from him to know he can hit those shots. I tend to think that these bad stretches here, especially that game against Chicago and, well, any of the last 3 or 4 or 5 games, they're little outliers in the grand scheme of things. He missed some time, right? You're always going to take a little time to get back into the rhythm. I think of playing the full rest of the season and into next year is going to be very important for him to find that stroke again. And again, it's not just him. So we got to stop putting all this on Devin Vassell. For all the Spurs fans I see out there on Twitter, on Reddit, wherever, saying, trade Devin Vassell now, like you're going to get a lot of value for him. No, I don't think so. Not yet. This dude is on a good contract. You have him locked up. He can be a 20-point per game scorer. He can be that league average, even to above league average three-point shooter. I'm excited to see what's coming next for him. And yeah, there's a little bit of a deep-seated three-point issue with the Spurs, but hey, you never know. Maybe a deadline move could happen. I kind of miss Doug McDermott on days like this. Do you guys? Patty Mills, Gary Neal, love those three-point shooting guys. Matt Bonner, Red Rocket, so many names. You never know. They could make a move, bring in another good shooter. I don't know. The offseason is not that far away either. There's no need to rush to make a fix to a problem that probably won't be a long-term problem, right? But anyway, I've talked too much. I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Am I off base here? Do you guys think there is a more serious problem? Do you think it's not as serious? I want to hear your thoughts down below, but that'll do it for this episode of Spurs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Like I said, it's completely free, and if you made it 12 minutes into this one and you haven't hit the button yet, do it now. You won't regret it. I can promise you that. I've been your host, Josh Gosse, and I'll catch you in the next one.